Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk 1943. I'm your host, Regina Smithwick, and I'm so excited. We had a return guest this time, Andrea Johnson, and we're going to get into some things about weight loss surgery, pros and cons, our experiences, our journeys, our ups and downs. We're going to get into all of that. So I'm so excited. So we'll be right back. So if you're ready, let's talk. All right, we're back. We're back. So thank you so much for joining us again. Let's talk. Miss Johnson, we ready to go. So let me do a formal introduction.
Okay.
Johnson is an executive leadership coach, and her passion is helping female leaders think critically, create imagery, and lead effectively in any situation, team, or organization. And she has other aspects we're going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Welcome, Miss Johnson. How are you?
Thank you, Miss Smithwick. I am well. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing wonderful. So before we get started, I always open up with a prayer. So we're going to just open up with a little slight prayer and we'll get started. Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to be here today. Thank you again for allowing Miss Johnson back on our show. She is so knowledgeable and has so many golden nuggets to drop, and we are so looking forward to learning and soaking and processing and applying. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. So
I don't get to be on a lot of shows where we pray first.
Yeah, you got to start off right. You got to start
Yeah.
off right? We got to definitely do that. So let's go ahead and get started. So the show today is about weight loss. And I know I'm going to let you open it up on your story because we both have stories on this because we both went through the same surgery. So but, start us off with your childhood experience and kind of lead us up to your surgery.
Well, it started off way back with like my genetic code. My whole family on both sides of my family is genetically predisposed to put on weight. And so I struggled from the very beginning, and I was born little, but I struggled. And by the time I was in probably, I don't know, I was like 5 pounds, 3 ounces, and I was late. So I don't know if maybe it was like, I always kind of joked that I was catching up and then just forgot to stop. But I was always the chubby kid. And you know, in circles today, that doesn't really mean anything, right? There's a lot of, and now we say there's like an epidemic of childhood obesity, but at the time, this is, I'm being 56 next month. So this is back in the 70s, early 70s. There were just, most people were not, and children especially were not overweight. So I looked different, and I'm not even 5 feet 2 inches tall. So as I grew, I didn't really have much. I didn't stretch out much, right? So I'm short, I'm little, I'm petite. And by the time I was 4th or 5th grade, my mother was sending me to school with, bless her heart, she was always trying to help with a tab, right? You did have a tab?
Oh, tab, the soda tab?
Wow. So I had a half a tuna fish and mustard sandwich. This is my famous lunch. A boiled egg and a tab. And maybe some carrot sticks, right?
Okay.
Now, what 4th grader is going to eat that for lunch? And so by that time, my family were missionaries in Korea. And so that's a whole other story. And that lends a little bit to my process. But we had the one side of the upstairs of our house, because we were missionaries, and we weren't able to get certain items. We had a big storage area. So I started sneaking food, and I snuck Jell-O packets. I mean, it's like having a pixie stick, right? So
Right.
Jell-O packets and peanut butter. And then we would get ice cream and keep it in the freezer. And I would go in and I would like keep a spoon under my bed, and I would go, because the big deep freeze was up on the second floor. Tragic. But I also found that it just became the way that I soothed whatever issue I had. And so for me, I developed bulimia and depression and put myself in the hospital, turned 20 in a 12-week program. But I always was overweight. And I look back now and I'm like, oh, 5'1.5". At the time I was 5'2". Now as we get older, we keep losing. I keep getting shorter. And the first time they said, "You're 5'1.5", I said, "I don't think so." And she's like, "I'll show you." But when I started, I look back now and it's like 145 pounds for somebody of that size. Back in the 80s, early 80s, that's heavy. And that's still considered overweight, but it's not.
It's more acceptable now.
But it's much more normal and acceptable now. And at the time, though, it just was not. I mean, I was a cheerleader, and I got criticized for, my skirt showing my bloomers because I gained weight, and so the skirt slid up. And and then I went to college and just didn't quite know how to deal with that because my family was still in Korea. I was 13,000 miles away in Houston, and so it's a giant city. And I got depressed, and I would sit and eat all day long, and I gained up to like 250 pounds.
Wow.
And I mean, I had deals where I didn't have any clothes that would fit. And so that was just kind of that part. And then I went in my 12-week program that kind of helped me. That's where I got my personal growth tools. And I started on the road to getting better. And I lost a lot of weight, like almost not quite to where I am today, but a lot, down to like almost weight in proportion to height kind of thing.
Right.
And finished out college. And then after college, it was really hard. I went into the music business. If you want to have a hard life, do that. And
I used to be in the music business too.
I didn't know that about you. I went to Nashville. I graduated from Belmont University, and it was in the height of that was 89 to 91. That was the height of the Christian music industry. And so I worked for Sparrow Records, and I worked for Benson Records, and I worked for DeGarmo and Key, and I worked for, you'll know, I worked for the maybe you won't, the Black Gospel area of Sparrow Records. So at the time we had Denise Williams on the label, and Fred Rerun Davis on the label, and Shirley Caesar on the label. And I mean, it was just, these were big names, and
they are still.
And I didn't know anything.
They still are.
And they're still big names, right? I mean, it's just, but they were big at the time, and they were, so, but being in California was really hard, and I gained all my weight back. And so I got depressed, and I came back to my parents' home. They were finally back in the States in Virginia, and did some other, because I can be a very disciplined person, right? So I was able to get into another program. Like I did Nutrisystem for a while. I did American Weight Loss. I lost a lot of weight, and I went to grad school. I went to seminary, and that's where I met my husband, and did really well until we got married and then moved to Baltimore. And it's hard to pastor churches. That's a hard life too. Yes. God keeps putting me in these hard life situations. And I literally, within 2 or 3 years, was up over 300 pounds. And my mother was
body shape. Yeah.
I mean, I have pictures, and on the flyer that you sent me, I actually popped in my day before I had my surgery picture on there. So the one that you shared, the flyer that you shared, has my day before and then now. And so if you're interested, that's what I looked like. And because I was working at Johns Hopkins University, and my doctors were like, if you're going to do this, we need to have some documentation. But my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and it got my attention. We'd been married 10 years or 8 years, and we weren't not able to get pregnant. And we'll talk about this, so many other things that can be comorbidities. I was pre-diabetic. And so I said, this Hopkins has a really great bariatric surgery department, and I have great insurance, and I'm an employee, so you get all these discounts. And I said, I really think this is the best thing I could do. And so I did. But in the process, I was going through counseling and antidepressants and all kinds of stuff. And I just decided at that point, my husband said, I support you. Whatever you need to do, I'll eat differently, And so we changed the way we ate prior to surgery. But I had my surgery on March 31st, 2005. My insurance, I tried to do the gastric sleeve, and my insurance said no.
Oh.
They said, too many people gain all their weight back on the gastric sleeve, and we're not paying for it. So they would only pay for the classic Roux-en-Y, which they call
That's what I got.
Yeah, they call that the Cadillac of bariatric surgery. So I had March 31st, 2005, and here I am. What is it, 17 years later?
Yeah, 17 years.
17 years later, and I was 310, and so right now I'm right around 128. And
wow.
So and of course we'll talk about this too, but I have the classic to lose those last 10 pounds.
And it's funny you saying that, because I'm listening to your story and I have a lot of similarities with you. I remember my date is April 19th, 2010, when I decided to change my life. And it was because I had the polycystic ovary syndrome. Didn't know I had it, didn't know nothing about it. I just, after I got my cycle late at almost 14 years old, I was 14. Weight just came on out of nowhere. I was small when I was growing up, but my weight came on after I got my cycle in freshman year in high school. But it was really slight then. But when I became like probably mid-20s, it just like I blew up to, I was a size 11, 12 in high school, 10 in high school, and I went up to like a 22. I went up to about 22, sometimes 24. And that was so weird for me because I grew up skinny. I literally was a stick. So for me to be a stick and then end up being to that weight, and my highest weight that I was after I lost a lot of weight, just like you did. In the mid 90s, I lost a lot. I was going to the gym. I was literally like living there. And I ate, little this, little that. I got the weight off. I met my ex-husband, my soon-to-be husband then. And man, shoot, by the time we got together, we eating late, going out, eating at Waffle House, eating stuff late, sleeping on it, love weight, everything else. By the time I got married, I was up to, I think I got down to 140, 150 something, maybe 150 something. I went up to almost 240. Easy.
That's a lot to put on in a courtship.
Yeah, and by the time I got married, so it was almost a 2-year span, maybe. I gained a lot of weight, and I still look at my wedding pictures like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I was, because you like, why did I do this to myself? But here and there, but it wasn't that. It wasn't just the weight, and that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah,
it's a lot. Even though I had a medical condition that attached to that, but my eating habits was not the greatest. And I eat a bunch of carbs. Everybody know me. If you know Regina loves carbs. Regina loves bread. I
always say Jesus said man cannot live by bread alone, but he never said Andrea couldn't.
I'm telling you,
I feel you
all the time. So I was living off of that. I lived off of more carbs than anything. I did not have a good diet. And when I decided to change my life, it takes a lot to decide that with gastric bypass. It's not a decision you should take lightly, because you're literally taking your insides and you're actually reorganizing your insides. You cannot put them back, and you're laying on the table, and you're literally laying on the table, and they punching holes in your stomach, and they going in there and they rerouting your organs for it to work a certain way.
I usually say I have reorganized plumbing. It's like I have different plumbing than you.
Yeah.
And it does. It's like, this is not a decision that you make lightly. It's not a decision that you think, well, whatever, I can. It's not even like a vasectomy that you can reverse. This is
you
not
can't reverse
this.
Really
can reverse. And it, so you just have to know what you're walking into. It's not it's not a benign surgery, right?
Mm.
It's not something that is completely risk-free. We walked into it knowing there were risks, but the risks of
Outweigh the, outweigh.
yeah, the risks of with my mother and her breast cancer, and she also had osteoporosis and lupus. So it's like all of those, when you look at the increase of diseases and the increase of incidence of different types of things, like for me, it was infertility. For you, it was PCOS. When you
I
look
had
at all of
infertility
that,
too. I had 2 miscarriages.
yeah. So
I didn't know.
when you look at that, there are hormones that your fat cells secrete that actually interfere with the rest of the hormones in your body. And I mean, I had to do all this research because I really tried to get them to give me the gastric sleeve. So I did all this. I was working for medical research in cancer centers, so I knew where to go to find all the articles, and I did all this stuff. But we don't realize that being morbidly obese really is a health risk. And
Very much so.
this is not, I want to be really careful that we are not at all talking about body size or body shape or body shaming. This has nothing to do with how you look. And there are some people that there's a movement of people wanting to say I can be healthy at a different weight. And I don't know if that's true or not, because I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. I do know that in general, with obesity, especially morbid obesity, which is 100 pounds over your recommended weight, that's when things really start to get nasty as far as it's like smoking. And especially for those of us who sit all the time. So I don't know where you want to go next, but I'm going to let you tell us where you want to go next.
Yeah, so like I was saying in the beginning of the show, the pros and cons of weight loss. And one of the things I want to discuss was a mental part of losing weight. A lot of times when you lose weight, you see it, especially now on social media, the way social media shows it, you'll see people going through the process. They'll start a certain weight and then you'll start watching them. And it's great to see, because you love to see the transition. I love transition. That's something that I always love to watch. I love to see before and afters. That's always been fascinating to me. So I love to see how people transition, and I transition. 1 minute I was one size, the next minute, and I actually got the tummy tuck as well afterwards. I got the skin removal and tummy tuck.
Look at you! I didn't even get that because I left Hopkins before I could get that done.
Yeah, it was 2 years after I went, because I had so much skin that you might as well go ahead and do the tummy tuck with it, because I had to pull the skin down anyway. So I ended up doing that. So I went from weighing the way I weighed until I had a flat washboard stomach, and I had all that stuff. So it is a lot, because you still see yourself as you were, even though you look different. And then the whole thing about how people around you, they take it. Some people took it good. Some people didn't know where to put you. They didn't know where to place you. Other people kind of use you as a benchmark. I'm going to explain that to you. So let's say you have a friend that is heavier than you, but they never really worked on themselves, because they kind of looked at you as the benchmark. Well, I'm big, but she's bigger than me. So when you get smaller than them, the mirror kind of gets turned on them, and they have to make a decision. Either they're going to do something about this thing that they never decided to do because they use you as that benchmark, or they're going to just put it on you and say, well, you think you're all that, and you think you're this, and making you feel bad for making a decision to lose weight. So you have to deal with different people's personalities and how they handle things too. So that was something that I had to deal with. But one of the things I had to deal with too is when I went to the psychiatrist. When you have surgery, I know there's a lot of people out here that had the surgery by now, because this is like a very popular thing now. But you gotta go to a psychiatrist. They have to kind of check you out and make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. One of the things that the psychiatrist told me, she said, in this process, there's going to be a good chance that you're going to lose some really good friends, best friends, and maybe even a husband. And I said, what? Okay, wait, let me go back. So if I lose weight, me, I'm going to lose close friends and possibly a husband or boyfriend. She's like, yeah. She said, because when people meet you where you at, they expect you to be there. They don't expect nothing to change. And then when you do change, they're not ready for it. And so they will do, like I said, take that thing and switch it on you. And she said she had so many people that lost close family members, mothers, sisters, boyfriends, husbands. They lost people over there losing weight because they wasn't comfortable in their new skin, and they made you feel bad for losing weight. So did you have any experiences like that?
So I'm going to start off by saying I'm blessed with a husband who immediately said, if this is what you're going to do, because I didn't have those wedding pictures where I had gained weight. I had the wedding pictures where I had lost weight to about the size I am now. I worked really hard. I was that girl.
Oh.
And I worked to where I was like, and I have to tell you, I put on my wedding dress a little while ago and it still fit. Well, not still, it fit again.
That fit again, right.
And so for me, that's what he married. And so there was a lot of shame involved in gaining all that weight. But, I thought it didn't feel lovable or pretty or anything. But he told me from the beginning of my conversation about having some kind of bariatric surgery, he said, whatever you need to do, I'm in. And he said, I'll change the way I eat. And so we did. We started changing, this is back in the day. I know they're less, and we talked about this before, they're less strict now about what you can and cannot eat. And I'm just going to throw my opinion out there and say, I think that's doing people a disservice. My surgeon said, get the Sugar Busters book and assume that's how you're going to eat for the rest of your life. Like low carb, high protein, no sodas. If anything has more than 10 grams of sugar,
That's what they told me.
It's just like, drink water before you eat, but don't drink until 30 minutes after you eat, because
they told me the same thing.
Talk about the physical aspect of the plumbing, because it's like a funnel. And my husband said, I will change. I will eat how you eat. And it served him well because I eat healthy. But I think I lost maybe some coworker friends, but I was in counseling through the whole thing. And I sat down with not a psychiatrist, but a counselor. And he actually walked us through what he calls family systems. He actually gave the example of when you're on a stage, your life is like a stage, right? So imagine you and your husband or your boyfriend or your family and all your friends on the stage. And so he kind of prepared us for exactly what your psychiatrist told you. Is he said, if you change the lines in the play, everybody else on the stage is going to look at you and say, what are you doing? Why are you changing the lines in the play? And this can apply to any kind of growth that you do, any kind of change that you do. This happens to addicts who get sober or get clean. This happens to people who lose weight. This happens to people who decide to go on a personal growth journey. But for weight, it is such a physical thing, and it is so visible that people feel threatened and they don't know what to do with you. And or if you decide I'm going to exit stage right, everybody's like, whoa, come back, this is your lines, nobody's saying your lines, you need to participate. And so yes, I understand that phenomenon. I was blessed to have a husband that decided from the beginning to stick it out. And at the same time, I think there were coworkers that as I walked through this process, there were some coworkers who was like, I don't know what to do with you. And then when I changed jobs, they didn't know me at all as that person in the middle of change. They only knew me as, so when I didn't really talk about it because I had gotten to where, and that's what I did, was I just quit talking about it. I didn't tell people how much weight I'd lost. I didn't tell them, because it was the same kind of things. Like, people criticize you, and how many times have people said you took the easy way out?
Oh my gosh.
The
easy way, and then, and then they not just the easy way out, but they waiting for you to fail. They waiting for you to gain the weight back. They waiting to see, and that's just, but see, you know what? Let's get a little deeper with that.
Okay.
When you are in a state that you're not happy with yourself. And a lot of times, if you don't even know who you are, because that's the reason why you're gaining weight, because see, a lot of times the weight's attached to emotional stuff anyway, attached to a lot of things that you need to take care of anyway. The weight is just the symptom, it's not the core. The core is what's going on with you mentally. And a lot of times we always solve the symptoms, we never solve the core. And that's why when we run out here and get the surgery, we get it, we lose the weight, because it's only a tool. It's meant for you to lose a massive amount of weight at one time. It's just a tool, but it's not guaranteed you're not going to gain the weight back, because see, that mental core still hasn't been resolved. So you're going to do the weight, lose it, feel good for a while, whatever. But whatever that core is that you didn't solve, it's going to rear its ugly head, and you're going to go back to your old ways, and you're going to end up gaining the weight because you didn't solve the real problem.
Right.
And those people are waiting for you. They're waiting. you, because they need that, because that's going to make them feel like, oh, good, I don't have to do nothing again because she's back
Right.
or he's back or whatever the case is. So when you do this, if you decide to take this route, and I'll tell anyone, this is the best thing I ever did on April 19th, 2010.
Yep.
But you got to take it seriously. You got to understand that you're putting your life on the line. You got to understand that this is a lifetime journey. It's not just a quick fix, and it's just a tool. And you need to understand that you need to get more than this physical help. You need to get the mental help that you need, because there's a reason why you were there. Unless you had a serious medical reason. Like, I did have a medical reason, but I had reasons too. I as we all know my story, it wasn't just that. It was a lot of mental that I was holding myself into. So when I released all of that, it released me from being a prisoner in my own body. And then you make yourself feel bad about, and then you go into the victim mode. You know, that victim mode, you feel sorry
Girl,
for yourself.
you're meddling in everybody's stuff right now. But
it's true. You get into that victim, and I'm a victim. I'm so sorry. You know, I'm feeling bad for myself. I want everybody to have a little pity party for me, and you know, guys don't like me because you know I gain, you know, because guys are visual creatures and they don't like big girls, and I went through it all. If I could, man, shoot, I could tell you all day, but I had to love me, and when I love me, you're accepting of who you are. If you, whatever size, like you said, whatever size you are, you're accepting of you because you love you. You know, so
yeah.
I think that's really important. So that's a real important part of weight loss is your mental. It's not
Well,
just,
and I joked with you earlier. I'm usually a very, like, I use the term gentle accountability in my group coaching, because we're goal setters, and you know, it's like you can only hold somebody so tightly to a goal. You never know what's happening in life. But I will say, when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to gastric bypass, when it comes to bariatric surgery or weight loss, I do not pull punches with people. I mean, this is your life we're talking about. There's a reason I weighed 310 pounds. There's a reason you weighed however much you weighed. And yes, it has, every once in a while there's a medical reason, but most of the time it has everything to do with how often that fork or spoon or whatever went to your mouth. And it has to do with you probably not processing some other kind of emotion.
That's right.
And for me to sit down and for like 2 years solid, before my surgery, through my surgery, and after my surgery, sitting on an almost weekly basis with my counselor, working things out, talking things through, he looked at me and said, I have to tell you, I don't think I know anybody with more courage. And I said, oh, thank you. Now, how do I get there? You know, and because I was just determined to get well. I was determined to get, it wasn't skinny. I mean, yes, I've had plenty of days I've wanted to be skinny, but if you go follow me, you're going to find that my goal this year is to get strong. And this is the first year I've ever done that. Right. So I got, I mean, this is the gastric bypass, right? So there's the skin, but
I have skin too. I have skin too.
You know, I'm actually doing some stuff because I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old son, right? For me, infertility was a result of obesity. Now, I don't know that, I mean, I don't know. I could have gone into early menopause, whether I weighed 300 pounds or not. But for me, that was part of it. But I want to be able to grow old with my son and know him as long as I can. And because he's adopted and we got him, you know, he's only 13 and a half. So, but the deal is that the part that you have to be willing to look in the mirror and say to yourself is, why do I eat? When I put something in my mouth, am I really hungry? Or am I trying to, or is there something that I'm trying to soothe or fill or, you know, make different? Or is it I've just been taught to eat this way and I don't know any different, right?
That's right.
So sometimes there's an education that needs to happen, and we can talk about that, because when you start, if you're really going to do it well, right? If you're out there and you're contemplating gastric bypass, number one, it's not a toy. It's not a quick fix. So that's number two. It is, like Regina said, it is a tool, and it needs to be one of many tools, because not everything is a nail, and you don't use a hammer on a screw, right? You don't use a hammer when you need to saw something. You have to have many tools in your toolbox. And so gastric bypass is one of them. If I had not seen it that way, I would have gained it back. Because I did. I mean, I don't know about you, but I kind of did this for a while.
Oh yeah, I went over that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been 17 years. And my surgeon at the time, you know, I lost in the first 18 months, I lost almost as much as I am now. So it wasn't, that's the majority of it. And so physically, she said, you are like a poster child for me. And I'm like, well, I will do endorsements for you. But I also worked with a nutritionist. I learned about how to eat. I learned why I was eating what, you know, I learned about my own personality. I learned about my own fears and inabilities and insecurities. And you have to be willing to look in the mirror and see more than just a body. Because like you said, our brains, they don't know that you're thin. They don't know that you're healthy. And I still walk past mirrors today and think, who is that lady? Oh, that's me. I mean, I still do. And when people don't know my story, they don't believe me because I am pretty small. And, you know, I see all the extra skin and all that kind of stuff, but most people don't see it. And if you're not willing to say, this is a physical difference in my body that I have to honor, right? I have to honor it, then you're not going to succeed. It is just going to be another failed attempt. And, you know, because here's the deal. Literally, they make your stomach this big or smaller, like this big. I got to look at the camera and see how it's so backwards, right? So they make it like this big, but then normally we have a sphincter at the bottom, a rubber band at the bottom that holds food in there to digest. When they bypass all of your stomach and attach it later on down in your intestines, it's lit, and they attach it back in so that your stomach, your gastric juices come back in. But literally, it makes your little tiny stomach that is not this big. It's like half that. It makes it like a funnel. So if you drink water while you eat, it'll just like go right through, and you'll get hungry. And you know, there's just, you have to change the way you eat. You have to change what you eat, and you have to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, all right, I'm worth it. I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to look at all the different aspects of me that need help. Not that need to change. I mean, we all need to change, right? Have a little compassion and say, all right, what are the areas in my life that need help? You know, and if you need to name them, then you can do that. And then you can use this as a tool.
And you need grace. You know, I would say what I learned from my experience, go into it doing your work, doing your education, learn how to eat. If you don't know how to eat like I don't, and I'm still working on it, like I know what to do and what not to do. There's so many foods. I'm so finicky eater. There's so many foods I don't like. But I had to learn how to eat certain things and let certain things go, because I don't do sodas anymore. I haven't touched a soda in 12
No
years.
sodas. No carbonation.
No carbonation. But I, you know, get books or read or do what you got to do. I had a health scare in November with my cold, and that is different. That's gut health. So, I mean, there's certain things you need for that, you know, to make sure you don't get that, what I got again. So between all that and just eating right, and then I'm in my 50s, and I'm pausing. There's too many things that's going on with me that I need to eat better just for health reasons only. Don't get me wrong. You want to look great. You want to fit good in your clothes. You want all that great stuff. That comes with it. That's the bonus. But I need to be healthy.
Right.
I need to be healthy. So I would say, if you want to take this route, get the food down part first. Because if you get that down and start eating like that before your surgery, first of all, you're going to actually lose some weight anyway before you have the surgery. So when you get that part down, when the surgery's over, you're not trying to catch up. You're not trying to go and learn all this stuff after the surgery. Learn it first, do it before you get there. And when you get there, you already master it. You just continue on after the surgery, and it will just go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Make it so much easier for you, because a lot of people do it backwards. They want to go, they'll eat like to that midnight before they tell them they can't eat no more. They will eat everything. Let me go ahead and get it in. Let me eat it, and then they go and, you know, do what they got to do, have the surgery, and then after the surgery, they're like, oh, I'm hungry, oh, I'm this, because your body is still doing what it did before.
It's withdrawals. And you have to understand too that that even that idea of like that binge before,
Mhm.
That is, like I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
I have bulimia and depression. And there is a scarcity in that mindset. There's a fear of missing out. And, I'm 17 years out. Okay. I still have, and I'm actually starting a fast tomorrow. But so I'm having to tell myself today, right? Because I have that history of bulimia, I don't need to eat extra today. I don't, because my fast has extra protein in it. So it's like a low calorie fast. It's not a non-eating fast. It's I make sure I get protein in. But when I do that, I have to be really careful that I work on my own mindset, because if that's something that you're prone to do, then you have other things to talk about besides just your weight. You've got to look at why you do that. What is it about it? What is it about feeling like you're going to miss out? And even like today, I worked too long. I did some stuff this afternoon. I grilled my chicken. I had a little sweet potato. I had some green beans, and I sat down to eat too late. So I did not finish my supper because I know better. I can't eat in 20 minutes. And so I was like, I guess I'd chalk that up to not, well, I'm definitely not eating extra tonight because I don't have time. And you have to learn how to eat. You have to learn what to eat. But the other thing about that is, if you're not willing to change your habits before you have surgery, I don't know what makes you think you're going to change your habits after.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard because your mind is going to play tricks on you. It does it all the time. And that's what we do. We talk ourselves into doing things that we're not supposed to do because that's what we do. That's why we are where we at. Because that's what we've been doing.
I'm going to toss a book out there because I think everybody should read it anyway. It's James Clear's Atomic Habits. And it's it's like the science of habits, but he lays out some really clear indications of why we don't have good habits and how we change them. But he actually tells you how to build good habits and how to let go of bad ones. And in there, he talks about having the using the small go. Of course, it's atomic, right? So you start small, and then you stack different. Like you learn how to brush your teeth, and then you brush your teeth and wash your face, and then you put habits on top of those. And then the other thing he talks about is in the environment that you're in. Get around other people who are eating the way you should eat, right? Stop hanging out with the people that eat the supersize. Stop, and if you're going to go out to dinner with people, we need to either have like a third of a regular portion or a quarter of a regular portion or a half sometimes depending on it. Or we just need to order an appetizer, which is really hard to order a healthy appetizer. But you need to be around people who are supportive of you. You need to be around people that are going to help and encourage you to do that. So you may have to go find new friends. And it may not be that people let go of you, but it may be that you need to let go of them. And if any of this sounds like I would be talking to an addict, I'm not. It's no different.
Nope.
It just really
is addiction.
One of the things I actually went through and one of the things I tried was Overeaters Anonymous. And so we used the Alcoholics Anonymous Blue Book, the Bible, and so I did the 12-step program, and all of these things are mental tools that I had, not just physical tools. And so by the time I hit gastric bypass, I was ready and I was locked and loaded, as they say. And so there was no turning back. But there's a lot of tools that I use today to help maintain. And many people will hear them and go, oh, well, I would think that I wouldn't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, you still do.
So do you want to hear what they are?
Yeah, before you do the tools, let me throw one out at you. Intermittent fasting. What do you think about that?
I think as long as you get, so I did intermittent fasting. It's another, the 5-2 fast diet is actually quite good. And I loved the concept of that. And I love the whole, you stay within like a 500 calorie day, which is basically kind of what I'm doing tomorrow. But I use Plexus products for my gut health. And Plexus has a new product called Reset. And it is literally it's a liquid fast, but it's designed with 70 grams of protein just by itself. And less than 500 calories, and it's a 3-day metabolism reset. And so I'm excited to do it because at 55, every once in a while we need a metabolism reset. But I also had COVID last month, and I haven't been able to exercise well, so I'm feeling like I could use a little bit of a reset. So, but I know a lot of people who do really well with intermittent fasting. I have done well personally in the past with it. even, as a gastric bypass patient,
Mm-hmm.
partially because it lets me really think about why would I want to eat right now? What is it that I would want to eat?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of good science behind it. So is it something that you use, or are you just curious?
I did use it and it did work. I'm going to go back to use it. I
Yeah.
did, I ate at, I started 8, 9, 10. I got to 11 and then I stopped eating at 8. So I think I did 11 to 8.
Yeah,
And
there's an app that, like in my Plexus group, a lot of them do intermittent fasting along with gut health. And there's
mhm.
an app that you can use that will literally, it's like you can hit the start, like I'm going to
Yes,
stop eating
I had
now,
that.
and it tells you when to start eating again.
Mhm,
I did better on an actual 5-2 style. So I
mhm,
did better with a fast day on a Tuesday and a fast day on a Thursday, rather than each day at a different time.
mhm,
I didn't, my sister does really well, or my sister has used those, and a lot of my friends use the actual timer to eat just during certain hours.
mhm,
I personally did better on the 5 days on eating regular, and then 2
mhm.
days just fasting with less than 500 calories. So that I think it's great. I also, but again, I have a history of bulimia and depression, and depending on the kind of stress I'm under, when I do a fast, sometimes I get into that bulimia thinking. So I have to be very careful and pay attention to myself. So it just depends on you.
Okay, so let's go ahead into some of your tips that you have. And this is for anyone, not just gastric bypass
Yeah.
people, but this is something if you decide you want to take that route, you already get, like we said, get yourself together. You're already locked and loaded. You got the tools, or you just want to try it for yourself and just do it. You're on your own. These are tips that will help you get to a cleaner mindset about food and about you and about your
Mhm.
image. You need to have that first. That foundation is so important. I think that social media gets us in these images more than into you. And we get into how we look in things and how we look and how people perceive you, and we doing it back. We put the cart in front of the horse.
Yeah.
So we need to just work on you as a person, and then the benefits of that is you'll be able to wear and do or whatever. I was wanting like to say to my audience, if you have any questions at all about gastric bypass or intermittent fasting or just anything we've been talking about, we'll love to hear from you, and we'll go ahead and answer your questions. We'll put them out there for you. If you're interested, just go ahead and comment on the pages that you're watching us on. And we'll love to have you come on and talk about some of the things that you have questions about. I know this topic is very between any weight loss surgeries, or like I said, I had a tummy tuck before, and that was a doozy. The recovery for a tummy tuck is a doozy. Woo! I'm telling you, it was nothing. Gastric bypass was nothing compared to the tummy tuck recovery.
Really?
Nothing.
So
I
I'm just going to
actually
throw it
did,
out there.
huh?
Go ahead.
I actually had to go buy. They told me go rent a chair from Rent a Center. I had to go rent a recliner to sleep in for 2 weeks. You could not go sleep in a bed. I had
Okay.
to sleep in a recliner.
So I actually had to do that for gastric bypass. I
Oh,
had it laparoscopically, which it sounds like you
me
did
too.
too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was the way I was shaped or what, but I could not lay down flat in a bed for 6 weeks.
Woo!
It was like knife wounds, which it is. It's basically knife wounds. And so I did the same thing. I rented, so this is a tip. We rented a recliner because
Yeah.
we're not recliner people.
No,
I'm like mid-century modern. It's like recliners, no. So
I had to go rent one, and it saved me.
it
It really
did.
saved me because I was able to get up and out without
It
people helping
did, and I was sleeping just not quite
a
flat.
little
I
bit.
was
Yep,
sleeping
me
just a little
too.
bit, and now I have a bed with an adjustable head. So if you have an adjustable bed, that would work too, because you just need your head up and your feet up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I did a recliner, and I could not sleep flat for 6 weeks.
Wow. See, everybody's different. See, and it's another good point.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is different. A lot of people like to give you their stories, and you just take in what they give you, but you're not going to know till you know. You're not going to know till
Right.
you get surgery. So
Yeah, you have to try it.
you
Yeah.
have to try. It's the only way you're going to know how you're going to recover. Some people snap right back. Some
Yeah.
people are down a little longer. Now, before we get into the tips too, the surgery is different now. We
I
were just
know.
talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
When I had the surgery, it was 2 to 3 days in the hospital.
Yes.
And now I know people who's getting the surgery and they go home the same exact day. They just let you wake up from the anesthesia and they put you in the car and they send you home. I know you're cringing, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you have tubes and you have fluid coming out. You got to change a fluid tube. It's so many things that I feel that they need to at least give you a day to catch up and kind of know what you got to do when you get home. Because you're so out of it, and they give the instructions to the people and whoever pick you up. Oh, this is what you got to do. Send her home. I'm like, I'm kind of scared right now. I just had
Major surgery.
and you're sending me home like the same day. You can't let me spend a night at least. Is that crazy?
It's really uncomfortable. And I have a friend who, I've had 3 friends who've actually gone through it, and they actually were in the hospital. So I don't know. They were at least overnight, I think 2 days I stayed, maybe it was 2 nights. Yeah. But,
2 or 3 nights.
And then I had to go back and have the tube removed or something. Even that. But we could rail against the insurance situation, the medical situation in the United States all day. It's like Don Quixote, like tilting at windmills. But part of it too is it is a surgery that we now are very familiar with. And that's something that those of us who had it many years ago, it was still experimental. And I think that the more they know about a surgery, the more they know if somebody's really, some of it's insurance. So it's not all like doctors know everything. It's like some of it is money, but some of it is, I think they're more familiar with the surgery and they're more familiar with what could go wrong. And I'm sure if they thought somebody was at risk, they would keep them. But it just...
Oh, of course. They won't put nobody's life at risk. You just feel more comfortable. So, all right. So let's go ahead into these tips before we close out today. So what are the tips we could give our audience on just doing better, eating better, feeling better mindset?
Well, I have some tools that I use, and I have a friend that she interviewed on my podcast, and she's a health coach, and she works specifically with women, and she's the one who challenged me back last December. She said, look, Andrea, if you just do 5 minutes a day, 5 or 10 minutes a day. And so I started doing it that way. Now I'm up to like anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes, 5 to 6 days a week. But it's strength training, and I get on a stationary bicycle or walking. I mean, literally just move your body. Just move your body. Just get up and move. My Apple Watch tells me when it's time to get up and stand, right? It's like, get up and stand. I have a standing desk. So you've got to move. None of this is new, but you've got to get up and move your body. The other thing I do is I write down what I eat. I write down everything I eat. I put it in my Fitness Pal. I make it to where I think you and I have done this, where I haven't looked at yours. I think we initially shared.
Yes, we switched.
But I haven't looked at yours, but because I said I would be happy to look at yours if you wanted me to, but we just kind of like lost touch. But my friend, my fitness coach, she actually looks at mine, so I know somebody's going to look at it. And what's funny is that I went for a while, like I said, I went on a trip and then I wasn't feeling well. I'm having one of those people that keeps having COVID kind of, the symptoms, it's almost a long COVID kind of thing. Every once in a while it pops up and I'm just horrible headache and fatigue. But I had it pop up. So I didn't write anything down for like a week. I thought, I'm going to meet with her. She's going to look. And so I went to actually to put it all in because I thought she's going to look. And then I realized she's not going to judge me. But as I started putting it, I'm like, I have really good habits. I didn't eat that bad.
You're used to it. You already had it down pat.
Exactly. So the tool there is something that helps you build a habit so that you know what to eat. But then the other piece is build the habits. Read that book. There's a couple of habit books, but James Clear's is just, I think it's the best. And he really talks about how you can build a habit. Once you build a habit and it becomes muscle memory to eat the specific thing, if you need the same thing all the time. But when you have some place where you can count your calories, old-fashioned stuff, count your calories, know how much protein you're getting. We need more protein than we're getting. We need less carbs than we're getting. Yes. I love bread too, but I also find that I have less gas when I eat less bread. It's like that's yeast in your body. And I'm not here to tell you what you can and can't eat. Everybody's body is different, but I write everything down. So I say, develop your habits, move your body, MyFitnessPal, or I used Noom for a while too, because it was really helpful.
Noom. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah. And if you go to my podcast, you can see I'm actually a Noom affiliate. You can actually click on there and get a discount. But it's got some really good prompts in there, a lot of psychology about why we eat, and a way to keep you can write all your stuff down. So I've used Noom. But the other piece is work on your mental. And so get involved in some kind of even if it's a group coaching program, or just get into a group where other people are talking about being healthy, right? You don't want people who are like, I'm trying to lose weight. No. We are being healthy. We don't, anything that we say we're trying to do, our brain thinks we're not doing.
Feel a word. Try.
Yeah, it's like, we're not trying to do it. There is this Yoda. It's like, there is no try. There is only do. So think about how you can get around people that are going to promote that in you. And then again, I shared too, look at your gut health, because for me, I know that my blood sugar is always low. I have low blood pressure. But so what happens is I want to do something to like fix that. And if I eat something that I didn't realize had sugar in it and my blood sugar drops, it matters what's going on in my gut. And so I started using my Plexus products, which help balance my gut and balance my blood sugar. And I have a lot less issues with, we never even talked about dumping syndrome.
My God.
You know, I mean, I have a lot less issues with that. And, but putting me in a situation where that's another community where all these ladies that I do Plexus with, they're eating healthy. They want to lose weight, or they want to be as healthy as they can be. So it's all these things are putting you in the environment you need to be in to succeed. And when we talk about the tools that we need, yeah, they can be practical things like an app that you use, but most of the time it's putting yourself in an environment where you can flourish, right? Put yourself in a situation where you can flourish.
That's it. And let's talk about the dumping syndrome. I'm glad you brought that. So I had an aunt that actually had one right in front of me.
Oh.
And I was a very scary person. I still am. Like, when somebody tell me don't do this or don't do that, I'm like, okay, I trust you. I was like, I don't want that, because they were like, oh, it's horrible. It's like you're getting the flu all of a sudden, and then you get the sweats, and then you get nausea, then you get diarrhea at the same exact time. And then you feel like you're going to pass out and all this. So it's basically a rush of sugar in your intestines. Like you,
well, here, let me walk them through it. So if you eat, so here's what happens when you eat sugar. A normal person before gastric bypass, you eat sugar, it goes into your stomach digests it and breaks it down before it goes into your intestines and before it is absorbed into your blood. Remember what I said earlier about the funnel? Okay. Because it doesn't sit in your stomach and it doesn't break down. This is why we can't do as much sugar. We can't do alcohol. Or we shouldn't. Because what happens is you don't have those gastric juices that will break down the alcohols or the sugars, and they go straight into your intestines. And then what happens is they go straight into your bloodstream.
That's right.
Any simple sugar is going to go straight into your bloodstream. Alcohol is going to go straight into your bloodstream. They've done studies where they show, so this is another consideration for anybody considering the surgery, is alcohol is out. It just is. So they've done studies where they've shown just one glass of wine puts a gastric bypass patient over the legal limit of alcohol, blood limit.
Yeah, you feel it quick.
And, so my husband will get champagne for our anniversary. It's like, you want a sip? I'd give a little tiny sip. It's like, that was enough. Woo. I mean, I couldn't hold my liquor beforehand anyway, because I'm a little tiny person. So it was like, oh, this was no big deal for me to give up. But for some people, that is a big deal. And you need to understand that that is a consideration. But what happens with dumping syndrome is when all that sugar goes into your blood, then your hormones kick into actually your insulin, like the whole diabetic thing. Your pituitary kicks in with all the insulin and everything to counteract that. So your blood sugar goes up and your blood sugar drops. And when your blood sugar drops, then everything else says, wait a minute, something's wrong. And so it secretes all this adrenaline into your system, which is where the sweats come from and the diarrhea and the nausea. And so what happens is your body is just on this roller coaster because you ate too much sugar.
Yes.
Or you ate too much fat. And so there's things that you have to watch, especially fat and sugar together.
No.
Oh, no. They're not
Yeah.
good for anybody, but that's going to put me, like, even just a bite of a donut, right? It's like, ugh, that doesn't feel good. And just because it's the fat and the sugar together. But that's what happens is that your blood sugar goes up and then it plummets, and then the adrenaline gets secreted to make sure you don't pass out.
Yeah. And so imagine that all happening in less than minutes after you ate it.
Oh, right.
Like literally minutes after you eat that.
5 minutes.
Kicks in right there. And it doesn't matter where you at, and it happens right there. If you're not near the bathroom, you're going to have a problem.
And so I've had it happen in restaurants. I've had it happen at my house. And literally what happens for me is I sit there and I, like, if it happens at home, I'm like in the living room or something. And the last few times it happened, like a couple of years ago, literally it was like, whoa, I'm having this thing happen. And then my body shut down. I just had to take a nap. I took a 15-minute nap because my adrenaline went and then it crashes, which is what happens. This is all just physiological response. So we didn't throw this out in a very orderly manner, but it's real. And
it's real, isn't it?
These are things you have to pay attention to. And I think either one of us would be willing and happy to talk to anybody who's interested in having gastric bypass surgery. Because it's different than a sleeve or a band or anything, because with those, they're just restricting the food. With gastric bypass, it really is changing your plumbing.
You're changing your whole plumbing up. I thank you so much. This has been a great conversation because we wanted to be real. We wanted to just tell you the goods, the pros. Like you said, we both said it's the best thing we ever did. We'll do it again. But it comes with risk. It comes with change. It comes with and when you have the surgery, it is about you, but others are affected based on how they handle and based on where you at in your life at the time you have the surgery. So you have to keep all that stuff in perspective when you have this surgery. So I definitely thank you so much for being on the show.
Sure.
I just got to do a couple of things before we close out today. And one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to share one of my flyers here for a sponsorship. If you're interested in being a sponsor on Let's Talk 1943, it's only $15 a show. I'll show a flyer just like this, and we'll talk about your product, service, or your business, and you'll get your time to shine and get some customers, clients, and sell some products. So if you're interested, you just reach me at Let's Talk 1943@gmail.com. You can go to my website and leave information in my contact page. And like I said, it's only $15 a show. If you're interested, please let me know. And we would love to have you join the Let's Talk family crew. And so for today's advertisement, we have Rosemary Hemp. And she has amazing products. She has creams, butters, lip balms, anything you need to nourish. Everything's natural. Everything is herbal, and it does improve your health. And she has candles, everything you could think of. So this is actually Rosemary Hemp, and you'll be able to look her up on Facebook, and that's her name, Drusa, on the bottom here. And if you go to Facebook, Instagram with that name, you'll be able to pull her up, and you'll be able to see her products as well. So I would like to thank her for being a sponsor on our show this evening. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. So that's what we have to this evening. I have a book actually as well that is called Wring Out Your Sponge. And with Wring Out Your Sponge is a journal. There you go. It's a journal, and it's on Amazon. But tonight, I'm actually giving one away for free. So if you're interested, you can just Wring Out Your Sponge in the comments, and whoever the first person comes through, I will mail it to you. Wring Out Your Sponge journal. It's a journal that helps you wring out your insecurities, your low self-esteem, everything that you have on you. It tells you how to do it. It gives you 14 steps on how to write it out. And at the end, you'll be able to have that completely wringed out. And now you can absorb new ideas, new belief systems, and new processes.
This sounds great.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
That sounds great. Well, because we're talking about what you need to do before you have surgery. We're talking about how you need to actually change the way you think, and this can help you change the way you think.
Yeah, and it helps you because some people get journals, they'll get blank pages and they don't know what to do or what to write. My journal actually gives you step by steps on how to write or what to write in that section.
Excellent.
So it'll keep up with you and it'll teach you how to write journal. So when you decide to get another one, you'll know how to write it.
Excellent.
So yeah, so I'm definitely giving this out. So if anyone is interested in getting this book, just write "Ring Out Your Sponge" in the comments, whatever platform you're using this evening, and I will get this out to you. I will inbox you or whatever, get your information and mail it to you. So that's "Ring Out Your Sponge."
Cool.
Yeah, isn't
I
that?
like that. I didn't know you had that journal. That's great.
Yeah, I have a couple. I have 4 actually.
You shared that when we were talking about change your mindset so that you can actually lose the weight.
I know. I have so much going on with that. I have conferences. I had a conference in Atlanta a couple weeks ago. I'm having one in Charlotte coming up. I have so much going on. So Let's Talk Family. I will be informing you about all my changes I'm going to be having. But not changes, updates and growth.
Excellent.
Just growth. So
excellent.
Our next show is going to be in 2 weeks. So we are going to have, actually, that would be, let me make sure I tell you the right date. On the 14th of August, in 2 weeks. It's going to be codependency. We're going to have a person up here, Ms. Shaw, is going to talk about being codependent and what she had to go through, going through that herself and how to not be a codependent. So we're going to talk about that. That's going to be an interesting show. She has an interesting life story about that. So that's going to be on the 14th at 7 p.m. Same back time, same back channel. Old school 870 babies, you know about that one.
Right, you know.
So I know, right? So before we close out, do you have any last words for us, Andrea?
Well, I want to say that we've put a lot of stuff out there. I want to make sure that people know that this is a really good tool, right? And the simple fact that you're thinking about it means that you're trying to make changes. And I just want to encourage you that you can do this. And this is something that you can get support for, that you can get help with, and that any change that you want to make is possible. The only one stopping you is you. And if this is a tool that you want to use, just find the right community, find the right people, contact either one of us. We will support you. And yes, we shot it. We did a little bit of straight shooting about what the hard things are, but sometimes you need to know what those are in order to make a really well-informed decision. And that's when I talk about helping women think critically, that's what I'm talking about. It's like looking at all the pros and cons, looking at what all the different angles are and being able to say, okay, now I can take that and become imaginative with my solutions. And if it includes gastric bypass, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But you need to do what's right for you so that you can get all that information so that you can actually make a really good decision. You got this.
Beautiful closing. Thank you. That was a beautiful closing. So until next time, bring a friend. Let's talk again. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Next time, God bless. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.